This FBA conference has been phenomenal. I had my brain blown away after a very good talk by Dr. Joe Davis. He is the Global Chief Economist at Vanguard, and he was talking about our economic future. Long story short, he predicted that these five industries that I'm about to tell you right now will be the big game changers within the next decade. So here we go: telecom and sensor, polymers, a material, agriculture and plant science, oncology, which is the treatment of tumors and cancer, and lastly, the one with the most potential, genetics. Now, Dr. Davis talked about, before we get into why these five, I want to talk about his indicator on how he predicted uh, innovation. Yes, he's an economist, and the economy runs on spending, and spending is mainly driven by new innovation. So he measured innovation in terms of the number of exchanges of ideas, which is the idea multiplier. It's basically a ratio of how many times an idea is exchanged between experts around the world. And by measuring that and measuring how many times these ideas are exchanged, we can to an extent predict innovation. And that's what he did here with this list. For those that are curious, genetics has the highest exchange of ideas globally between experts, which is 4,000 to 1. For every one idea, that idea has been exchanged 4,000 times roughly. So yeah, you kind of get you know an idea of why he says that genetics will be the one with the most potential for innovation and changing the future economy. So let's talk about innovation. He began his little talk with questions which were very mentally stimulating, such as, where do good ideas come from? Do they fall from the sky, or do they come at the end of a deadline? Now, using historical facts and individuals like Sir Isaac Newton, Ben Franklin, the Wright brothers, he talked. Dr. Davis talked about the exchange of ideas, number of exchange of ideas prior to what these great men have left behind. Prior to the airplane experiment on the beach, the Wright brothers exchanged ideas globally throughout on many occasions, and this, as we have seen, repeated over and again throughout history. This is even true for countries such as China. China closed its doors to the world around, I think it was the 1400s, and it suffered a decline in living standard for almost close to half a millennia. And that's 500 years for those that don't know. So it's just mind blowing for me on how this simple the simple idea of the exchange of ideas leading to innovation, leading to growth, leading to new products and services in our economy has been so simplistically explained. I used to think that, innovation, creativity is just one spark of a moment where someone just thinks of something, something happened that leads to this new idea, new innovation, new technology. But after listening to him speak and kind of reframing it into my own life, I can agree with him to some extent. Like, prior to everything that I've done, it's always been a set of accumulation of knowledge, of ideas from people, books, videos, podcasts, and that's how I got to where I am today, being, well, hopefully more knowledgeable than who I was 5 years ago. So yeah, that is interesting. I don't want to keep this video too long, so if you guys have any questions, any questions on the talk or in general, you want more in-depth detail on what he talked about, feel free to comment or DM me, and I'll be more than happy to talk about it. Thank you, guys.